Okay, first of all, what did you find interesting about it? Let's do our first question first. Sorry, I need to get going because really we got so much to get through. Sorry. Did you see anything in this that would prevent this kid from growing up to be the exactly wrong kind of personality to lead the people? To keep it from going to his head? You think it's going to happen? Extend, challenge, qualify? You don't think the kid's ignorant enough to think that they're doing it all just for him? Here's a he would have been brought up with the highest education. He's 10. He's immature. He would hear the stuff being said. He's the center of the celebration. All right, I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, the first time you do this thing, you're the kid. You were brought onto the stage. This is definitely a pavilion or a temple, and so you were going to go up steps, and you were going to be surrounded by what? How do you picture this thing? Okay, so if this is the temple and the kid's sitting here, the kid's sitting here facing south because he would be sitting in the north facing south because all kings were in the north facing south since the Shu Jing. That's been a tradition. So what's going on in the rest of this place? What do you picture? The actual physical, what do you picture the rest of this temple looking like? There's the kid sitting in the seat of honor of the ancestors. What do you picture the rest of this looking like? Come on. No wrong answers here. Huh? Big party, and so that's picture it. How do you picture that big party looking? People staring, a lot of dancing and singing. We did see. So they've got an orchestra. They've got dancers. And who are those for? The ancestors. Okay. And the ancestors are hearing them and seeing them through whom? The kid. What else do you have? Just dancers and a kid? Food. Okay, so you got food on those bronze things. What else do you have? Wine. What else do you have? Right now I just see dancers, musicians, food, and a kid. What else do you have here? Drunk people. And what are they doing? Are they hanging from the ceilings? What are they doing? Where are they? On the floor. They're all sitting on the floor? They're probably moving around. You have images in there. What are the people? How are the people interacting? How are the people interacting? Huh? All looking at him? I'm asking you to show me that you know how to read and remember details. Huh?
Isn't it say here that talking to the point?
They are talking, and what else are they doing?
Laughing.
And what else are they doing? They're toasting each other. Okay, so again, I ask you, how do you literally picture this scene? Where are the people, and how are they arranged? Doesn't it seem almost like a restaurant type thing? Right? Groups sitting together, toasting, drinking, laughing, talking, and that's exactly what we want. It is entirely to the point, as it says, I'm quoting, or at least closely paraphrasing. Okay. And the kid walks onto the stage, and he sees all eyes suddenly on him. You think that he's going to go, oh, I'm the coolest thing in the world. Really? How else might he react to this?
He might be scared, but after this happens many years, it will get in your head.
Okay. Please start thinking for yourselves instead of waiting for me to think back. That's a respectable point of view. But if you were good at seminar, you would go, really? It would go to his head year after year? I want to challenge that because on second thought, what's the experience of this kid once he enters that stage? And everybody looks at them. How does this ritual proceed? He comes, he enters, and then what happens? That's too fuzzy.
Everyone wants his attention, and everyone is trying to fight
You think everybody is? That sounds awfully unruly and chaotic. Hold on, that sounds chaotic. Who is serving the kid? The king. Do you think that the king served this little brat daily? Isn't it going to scare you that Dad, the ruler of the freaking universe, is coming? How do you think when Dad brings the food and brings the wine to this boy, how do you think he serves it to him? What do you think he physically does when he serves his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-father? Bows, if not gets down on his knees and kowtows. Let's get this kowtow thing down right away. You've all seen it. K-O-W-T-O-W. Right? 3 times. 3 times. Picture Dad bowing on his knees to you, all eyes on you. Really, you're going to be like, oh, yeah. I think not. There's one more thing that I think would keep you from going, oh, yeah, this is old news. What's the other thing for this kid that's going to make it, I would say, even more scary and more weird? Before he's possessed, what happens first? Huh? He gets drunk. This is a 10-year-old boy, and he is, I want to say bombed, but maybe not. What's his experience while drunk? What's going on in his senses while drunk? Is he just sitting quietly, like having a quiet glass of wine? He's listening to loud music. He's smelling all sorts of surely overpowering, spicy, all sorts of... What sense is not being overwhelmed here? My body is being affected strongly by alcohol. My ears are hearing bronze bells and loud music. My eyes are seeing an ocean of people, all eyes on me, and freaking Dad on his knees. I'm starting to feel a little dizzy and a little weird. I don't feel this way very frequently because I'm a child. I'm getting drunk. And suddenly they're telling me that what's happening to me? Spirits are possessing me. Dead people are entering my body. And they're not talking to me. They're talking to my dead grandparents, great-grandparents, the greatest kings of our family, of this land. The heroes of this land are freaking inside of me. I'm drunk. Do you think he believed it? Think about it. Do you think he believed it? The kid's drunk. Do you think that? You've got to appreciate the fact that the kid is drunk. I can't do that. How many of you have been drunk? Right? He is intoxicated. That is an altered mental state. And so I would find it odd if he was not susceptible to the suggestion that there are spirits inside of me. In fact, the experience of drunkenness might actually feel like you're possessed by something, because I'm certainly not myself. I'm feeling 1,000 different kinds of weird and un-me, right? I can't move. I can't talk right, blah, blah, blah. Now, what makes the ancestors happy? You've read the details. What makes the ancestors happy? What makes the ancestors say, we bless you? And I'm asking you for detailed answers. David, sit up. Huh? Sacrificial grain? The spirits are all drunk? How many of you noticed, how many different times did this according to rule show up in this text? Yeah? Huh? Sarah. Shankman. Shaker. Close. Look, it's been 3 years, right? Okay. Yeah? How many times do we see this come up? Speak up, woman. Thank you. So again, pattern. We talked about reading for patterns. According to the point, according to the rule, according to the proper qualities or quantities. All right? And so we see this thing. So what does that mean? How can we make the ancestors, despite the fact that we've done all this, how can we make them say, we don't bless you? We are offended by you. We don't bless you. By messing up the ceremony. By being somehow disorderly, not doing things according to rules. Did anybody notice that they even appreciated one of my favorite lines is you brought things out in the proper quantities. You didn't bring too much, which is kind of cool, right? So this is not a party in which like serving too much and just wasting stuff. No, there is a right quantity. Don't bring more than that because we don't want to be like that last Sean King, and don't bring less than that because that would dishonor us. Bring the proper quantities. But my favorite one was, what do they do with the baskets? They arrange them, right? You put the baskets in the right place. It's kind of a cool detail if you think about it. What we see here in this Confucian classic, which Confucius did not write because this is 500 years before Confucius lived, but Confucius studied this book and saw in it the answers to the problems that we will be getting to by the end of this class, is the notion of, please write this down, ritual propriety, to be proper, to do ritual properly. How would a Christian missionary who came and saw such a thing, what sort of letter would he write home to the Pope reporting on this alien culture, this China? That these people were crazy. Give me details. Why? He would say they're crazy because? Huh? They thought spirits possessed a child. And that was a good thing. They didn't call in exorcists and say, oh, demon possession, let's throw holy water on him so those demons leave. And when Jesus did, they jumped into pigs, and the pigs went and drowned themselves in the Dead Sea. Poor pigs. But anyway, pigs just in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? Demons jumped out of like the demon-possessed guy and into a herd of pigs, and they were like, rah! And they ran out, drowned themselves in the Dead Sea. Poor pigs. But anyway, lucky guy, I guess. What else? What else would the missionaries write? That they got a 10-year-old drunk. Would they approve of that? And if a missionary were to say, sin, 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 you're getting a boy drunk, you're drinking, that's sinfulness, how would the Chinese answer it? Notice we are doing international perspectives here. We are doing two cultures looking at each other. How would the Chinese defend themselves against these, or even see these Christians saying, that's sinful, that's wrong? What else? Thank you. Keep going. Discuss amongst yourselves very quickly. These are all such interesting questions.
Yeah, you can drink the tea.
Okay. All right. Very quickly, let's wrap it up. What are your thoughts on how the Chinese would say, I beg your pardon, you say we're crazy and wrong? Let us correct you. From our point of view, we are not, because fill in the blanks. How would they try to educate the Westerners that the Westerners do not understand at all, and there's actually something holy happening here? Really? Really, my college preparatory? Thank you. Okay. We're doing this for our fathers. What's the second commandment? Honor thy father and thy mother. So the only commandment that God said first to Moses was, don't worship any other gods but me. I'm a jealous God. Number 2, honor your mother and father. Well, we're honoring our mothers and fathers. How dare you tell us that we're crazy, right? What else might they say? Oh, but you're drinking. And you're committing that deadly sin of gluttony, one of the 7 deadly sins, because food is a physical thing, and the senses are bad because the body tempts you into sin. And so you've seen the Da Vinci Code with that monk who was whipping himself. You've seen these it's called self-flagellation. You've seen this, right? The monks who would whip themselves. In the Middle Ages, there were parades of monks whipping themselves. They would carry whips with like the cat of 9 tails, right? Little barbed wire on the whip hairs, and they would tear their flesh, whipping themselves, their backs. Their back would be like cut to ribbons. Why were they doing that? To tame their senses. Because the body is the enemy, and the soul is tempted by the body. Food, sex, silk, perfume, music, all those things can like tempt us to sin. And so the body is the enemy, and the soul has to like defend itself from the body because the soul's stuck in the body. And the best thing for us is to leave our bodies and our souls go to heaven where we're not tempted by these bodies anymore. So how would the Chinese defend themselves against that? Huh? It's only once a year. Okay. Extend, challenge, qualify. Here is, we got to wrap this up. This took way too long, but it's such an amazing thing. What's going to happen to that boy when he becomes king? When his dad dies, what's going to happen to him? He's going to do the same thing to his child. Now here it gets deep, and I hope you're going to be writing. I'm going to say write about what's most interesting to you. I'm giving you details as food for thought. So you can either sit in your I don't have the energy, mental or physical, to pick up a pen and take a few notes for future reflection, or you can pick up a pen right now. So this is, again, 60 months of thinking about these things, and this is where I stand right now. 1. Wu served his son Cheng. Cheng was possessed by one, right? And Cheng then grew up when Wu died, and he did it to his son Kong. And Kong was served by his father Cheng, and the boy Kong was possessed by all of the past ancestors, and generation after generation after generation. First, as a boy, I was possessed by the man who founded this dynasty, this great man, King One. I was possessed by him. He was inside of me as a boy. And then I grow up, and he possesses my son. Down and down and down. What is it called when you have an activity that is passed from generation to generation to generation? It's a simple word. Thank you, tradition. This tradition will continue until 100 years ago. The Qing dynasty did it. The Shang, Zhou, Qin, Han, even during the POD, the Sui, Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing, all did this. It was a tradition that lasted for 3,000 years. What do traditions do for a society? We've got the example right there. What do these traditions do for the Zhou family, for example? What's the function of tradition? What does it do? Thank you. Say it loudly. And by everyone, you mean? Royalty people, think more clearly here. Who is it bringing together? We see the perfect example here. Who is it bringing together? The ancestors and the king and the sons. What did we just see there? Ancestor, king, sons. 3 generations. It unites generations. Tradition unites generations. A very quick East-West comparison. This stuff is. Notice I get excited about this stuff, and I've been teaching it for 5 years because it's incredibly, incredibly interesting. A quick East-West comparison. In the West, we talk about the fact that when Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, whatever, right, the family all comes together. can kids and grandparents, can they like really understand each other? Why not? There's nothing between them. What sorts of things? Say more. Why can't kids, parents, and grandparents actually like be united when they have their rituals, their gatherings, across generations? Yeah. But so did they in the Zhou. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. When we get together, we don't even think about our own dead. We don't think about Grandpa, he's dead. He's not included in this. It's just Christmas. We just give presents to the living. So we've already excluded the family line that has passed away from our togetherness. But there's more, even among the living. Notice I said grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and the kids. Why? Why is there a generation gap there? It's different every year? No, we get together around a tree, we give gifts, all sorts of stuff. But then the Onion magazine, how many of you follow the Onion on Facebook? Okay, right, did you see the one about Christmas? It said families across America gather for Christmas so that they can sit on couches and stare at screens, right? And it showed like a whole family, and you got like the kids sitting there looking at their little, and the parents like with their iPad, and that was about it. They're not together. Even when they're together, they're not together. Simple point. Because there's something about, how does the West think about tradition? I'll stop there because I want you to think about this because, again, it's true today, and it's an East-West comparison. If the West has a generation gap, which somebody back there brought out, China has a generation bridge. Tradition bridges generations. Tradition bridges generations. Why are families so much closer in the East than they are in the West? The second point that I want you to consider reflecting on, is this evidence of my radically natural thesis from the cosmology East and West thing? China is radically natural. The missionaries would say, you are indulging the senses instead of resisting them. You are becoming intoxicated with wine. You are sinning. Obviously, the Chinese would say, no, wine is good. Drunkenness, proper drunkenness, underline proper drunkenness, is good. It makes us happy and toast each other and talk, and it warms us socially, and it brings us together. And so does good food and good music and dancing. Drunkenness is not a sin if done properly. Again, I see the world in sort of through 3,000-year lenses, and I go to bars occasionally against my will because I hate bars because they don't know how to drink properly. Because instead, what you see in bars today, especially Western bars, I was in the Army, man, the U.S. Army, and this was a common thing to see, either in a bar or in the barracks, the dorms of the Army, not drinking like this, drinking like this, and actually, just a whole bottle, mouth open, but actually even that's inaccurate. Here it is, one bottle, two bottles, right, just going down you and into your mouth, and you're just, right before you proceed to fall to your knees and vomit all over the place. Totally improper drunkenness. We don't know how to drink very well. We drink very, very improperly. The ancestors would hate us because we don't know how to drink. We drink improperly. Whereas we see in this, from the very beginning, they were like, we have to tame drinking. We have to make people know how to drink properly, how to be drunk properly. Radically natural. With the in the at least Christian and Muslim, the Jews, when we die, they say we just become basically like the ancestors. In the Old Testament, there's no heaven. You die, you just become basically a sort of a shadow, a shade. Christianity, you go to heaven and it's paradise and it's perfect forever and ever and ever and ever, eternally. Islam, you go to paradise, not heaven, paradise, but the same idea. In China, EastWest Comparison, and this is deep stuff. Which is better, being dead, the way it is in Christianity and Islam, or being alive? Which is better? We see the evidence here. What would your argument be?
Being alive, they speak about longevity and how.
Yeah, they want to live for 10,000 years. By the way, 10,000 is just we say I've told you a million times. We don't mean a million. We just mean a lot. 10,000 is the Chinese version of, a million, right? Just a whole lot. What else is our evidence that being alive is better than being dead in this Chinese thing? Come on, think about the ancestors. And the things that you can enjoy when you're alive are? Being drunk and eating food, and let's get beyond the most vulgar of the two, like drinking and eating, stomach and, thank you, listening to music, that requires ears. What else? Happiness, laughter, socializing, that requires bodies to be together. How about what are the eyes are enjoying? The dancing, right? What's the nose enjoying? The smell of food. Radically natural. Life, earth is heaven. That's my motto, that's my slogan for that one. Earth is heaven. In China, we see it here. The ancestors want to come back to earth. They want to be back in the body. We're temporary angels in a temporary heaven. Or no, we're temporary angels in a permanent nature. And we pass away from it, and we lose our bodies. We're angels right now. This is it. This is heaven. And we pass away. And if we're lucky, we get to come back and re-inhabit this thing and enjoy these senses and human society and art and music and food and intoxication and all sorts of stuff. Earth is heaven. Earth is heaven. Earth is heaven. You don't want to leave Earth. You want to come back to it. Nature is good. Nature is better than anything supernatural. How do we make the ancestors bless us? By bringing them back and letting them enjoy natural pleasure. That requires a body. Anybody have any final comments, questions, insights? Yep.
How do they keep this tradition going whenever they change that? What if they have to overthrow dynasties, kill them?
Yeah, but notice we're honoring our ancestors. So the new founding king would be the new King 1, and his son would be served by him. Of course, there would be really, I guess, the new king. You would say, just honor my ancestors, right? Honor your. So it's a family thing. And just to take this further, again, to repeat what I've already told you, it wasn't just the king who did family ancestor rituals. Also, elite families did as well. Right? So noble families. Okay, now get ready to copy because we need to, in the next 25 minutes, we need to go from the Western Zhou to the Eastern Zhou. So make a new section in your notebook, and also look at the, I trust you did it. Yes. Also, quickly look at this thing that I told you to put inside it, because here's where it's going to have value for you. Look at this chart on the inside of your, oh my God, really, Sarah? You don't have a notebook, evil woman? Okay. So look at somebody else's. What I want you to look at is this part. Look at me. This part right here, where it talks about the Zhou on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, it talks about the Zhou, and then the Western Zhou, and the Eastern Zhou, and then the Eastern Zhou gets really complicated. Your task is to understand why we divide the Eastern Zhou up into all that stuff, and in fact, why the whole Zhou is Western, then Eastern, and then inside the Eastern, spring and autumn and warring states. All right, moving like old people. Moving like old people. Come on, Sophia. Moving like old people. You need your journals. Open them up. We're still in the Zhou, but now you want to write like in big heading type style. Eastern Zhou begins. First, what is an Achilles heel? It's the weak spot. If you don't know the story of Achilles, why he was so invincible, his mother Thetis was a sea goddess, and his mother Thetis grabbed baby Achilles when she had him, and being a water goddess, she took him to the river Styx, the river between life and the afterlife, a magic river, you swear by it, all sorts of stuff. And she took her baby boy, and she dipped him into the river and pulled him back out by the heel. And that made him invincible, except that one point that the water didn't touch because she was holding him by the heel. And so his heel happened to be the place where the arrow of Paris in the Trojan War, Hector's little brother, the playboy of Troy, who stole Helen of Troy, right? Paris puts an arrow into the heel of Achilles, and that kills Achilles, right? That's why this idiom, the Achilles heel. It's the fatal weakness of something. Now, it's very important for you to understand, why did the Western Zhou, this golden age of 300 years, 1050 to 770, why did it fail? So let's go back to the establishment of feudalism. You remember, the King Wu sent his two brothers to go and take care of the Shang king's son. And then there was a civil war when they saw the Duke, after King Wu died. The two brothers attacked the Duke of Zhou because they thought he was trying to usurp the throne. And so a war, brother against brothers. And the Duke of Zhou had to send armies that went from the Wei River all the way to the Yellow Sea, the East China Sea, and expanded the territory. All right? And then we had to give fiefs to more and more and more vassals. Write this down. In the beginning, there were between 100 and 200 vassal states, meaning between 100 and 200 noble families, lords of the realm. In the beginning. I'm going to do 10 generations here because we've got 300 years, and we've agreed that 30 years is a good estimation for a generation. It's a 300-year Western Zhou period. So we got 10 generations. What's the weakness of this feudal thing? All right, I, the Duke, give you a state, and you must be loyal to me. And I, the Lord, who was just given this, who helps the Duke, say thank you very much, and by God, I will be helpful to you. I will be loyal to you. Why do you think it failed 300 years later? Why would the Lords be such bad people that they wouldn't want to be loyal? Huh?
It was passed down to them. Like,
And therefore?
so it just means, like, honored by.
Speak loudly, boy. You're onto something. So now try to take it home. Huh? Go ahead.
If it was, like, passed down to, like, someone, then, like, after 3 generations, it just, like,
Because they didn't do anything to earn it, right?
They felt like they owned it.
They lost their what? They lost their appreciation. What other things now?
They're not the ones who swore
To the Duke. And so so bring it home, therefore.
it wasn't.
Do they have any sort of personal bond with the royal family as we go down the generations? Here, definitely, yeah, right? When the Duke gave it, we've got a personal bond, right? I know you, I fought with you, and I will die for you. My son, my grandson, my great... And so don't you agree? After 10 generations, there's less and less and less personal connection between vassal and royal family. Yeah? Remember we talked about, what's that thing where King Tong started the Shang dynasty, and then over 600 years later, the last Zhou king, what was that concept? It'll be on a test. What was that concept? Where you got a great first king and then a horrible over the generations? A dynasty starts with a good king. I just gave you dynastic cycle, right? So notice, we've got the same type of thing going with the nobles themselves. Noble loyalty goes through a cycle. It starts strong because there's personal bonds between king and vassal, but it becomes weaker and weaker in a cycle. Same type of thing. There's an aristocratic cycle, or a noble cycle, or a vassal cycle, a loyal cycle. And that's the Achilles heel. I need to give you a couple more concepts if you want to do, we're back to school now, if you want to do your little vocab or concept boxes separate so that you know these are the concepts that I need to remember from this discussion today. These 2 words here. When the Duke of Zhou established the vassal states, how did he run them? First by ritual. We've already talked about that. I ritually give you a bronze vessel that I had made for you. It is a gift-giving ritual, right? You receive it. It's a big ritual. You're the person of honor in this ritual. Everybody is standing around watching you, and you go home with a ritual gift from the king, right? And so ritual, ceremony, was the way that loyalty was reinforced. Not threat and punishment, but ritual, gift-giving, right? Instead of brute power and threat, it was instead sage king type stuff. Our job is to polish the people. Our job is to be benevolent, goodwill, all sorts of stuff. Question? Yes, and government was run, not threat and force. But the other thing that the Zhou did, that the Duke did, was he established what is called sumptuary codes. Fascinating topic. Look at the word and practice that very important skill for stupid things like the SAT test, where you can't use a dictionary. Guess what this word is involved with? Because you can look at the root. Sumptuary. What words do you know that have one of these sounds in it? What have I heard? Sumptuous? Yep. What else? Assumption? What else? S-U-M-P-T. S-U-M-P. I know nobody said consumption. Consumption. To consume. This is interesting stuff. What are sumptuary codes? What is a code? Notice it's not a law. You're not arrested if you break a code, right? You fart in church, You've certainly broken a code. We don't do that here. But you didn't break a law. You're not going to get arrested for partying in church. You're just going to instead be looked at like, oh my God, your parents did a very poor job on you. You don't know the basic codes of decency here, right? And so, you've got the king, you've got the nobles, you've got their ministers, and then you've got their officials underneath the ministers. By the way, write this down, you bloody lazy little turds. This is the social hierarchy of the Western Joe and the Eastern Joe. The king, the vassals or nobles, and then the nobles all have their own ministers to run their state, and then the ministers need officials to help them in their different departments, the Department of Music, the Department of Ritual, the Department of Forestry, of War, of Agriculture, of Education that we read in the Canon of Shun. So, in order for everybody to honor Fumia, in order for everybody to honor their place and show that they honored it, those bronze vessels that we talked about, which are items of status. Trust me, the king wasn't giving this to some poor farmer, right? You had to be an elite or deserve to be an elite to be awarded such a gift from the king, a very expensive luxury item. Basically, it's a Lexus, right? The king was the only person who was allowed to have 9 dancers in his ancestor sacrifices, or 9 bronze vessels in his ancestor sacrifices. Taking it to a level that will make traveling to China or looking at anything Chinese more interesting to you, you've seen dragons on silk, on paintings, on ceramics, all sorts of stuff. Do I have any dragons around? Count the claws on the dragon's hand. Count the claws on the dragon's hand. If there are 5 claws, listen, if there are 5 claws, only the king can have that dragon. If a noble, keep going, if a noble were to like put on his wall a painting of a dragon with 5 claws, that would be like farting in church. Because you don't do that, because nobles can only have 4-clawed dragons. Ministers can only have 3-clawed dragons. And in the same way, everything that you consume, that you possess, your property, your luxury items, was regulated, not by law, but by code. If a noble has 9 dancers, and this is important, I'm setting up Confucius here for you guys. If a noble has 9 dancers in his ancestor sacrifice, that is just so wrong, because only the king can have 9 dancers. Nobles could have 7. Ministers could have 5. Officials could have 3. Sumptuary codes. Yep. It's more than etiquette. It's economic, is it not? You can't possess more. I don't care how rich you are, Mitt Romney. Having more mansions than the President of the United States is not impressive. It's wrong. It's disrespectful. It's showing that you don't respect. You were trying to like out-swag. You were trying to make yourself bigger than your place in this society permits. You're not bigger than the king. And so if Mitt Romney were a noble and he had more stuff than the king, if he bought more stuff, more luxury stuff, the people would not look at him and go, wow, you're great. Wow, Bill Gates, you're great. Because you buy so much stuff and you show it off and you display it. They would instead say, you have no honor. You have no respect for those above you. You have no respect for the order of our society. You're dishonoring the king. If ministers had more dancers or as many dancers as nobles, same type of thing. You are threatening the order of our society here. You are threatening chaos here. You are showing that you don't respect the order that keeps this golden age of the Joe running. Sumptuary codes. Notice in this age of more inequality since the Great Depression 80 years ago, there is more wealth inequality. The rich have, 80 families have half the money of the whole planet. I repeat, 80 families have half of the money of this entire 7 billion person planet. It's unprecedented in history. Sumptuary codes would take care of that sort of thing, because people who had that would not be honored being so rich. They would instead be disapproved of for needing that much. The other elites would look at them and say, that's in bad taste, that's in bad morality. So there are economic arguments about this too. This stuff is, people, there are modern Confucians who take this stuff seriously as solutions to problems of economic inequality today. I gave this concept, again, for those of you who are thoughtful and like to think. Some of you, there are several of you in this classroom. A way to think about it is an economy of shame. Because notice, we're not arresting anybody for having 9 dancers when they should only have 7. We're shaming them. So we are distributing honor and shame. If you violate our code because it's all about you and not about us, we don't arrest you, we shame you. And that will control you more than the threat of arrest. The fact that nobody really wants to talk to you, that will change you more than the threat of arrest, because you can hire a lawyer to escape arrest if you've got that much money. Yes?
So when people shame you, does it also shame your ancestors?
Yes, that's a beautiful point. Your family itself is now stamped with shame because your parents didn't do a very good job on you if you are such a person, right? And so they are also shameful, right? This will be a big thing in Confucianism.
So
Yeah.
does that mean that because of that last, so like the last Zhou king who was overturned, he was so shameful, that means that
The last Shang king.
Well, I mean, the Zhou get over eventually.
Thank you. That's where we're going now. Okay, so after 10 generations, we get down to new section in your journal. All right, when was the last time I told you of just a bizarre, wild, and not safe for work bad king story? Who was that one? Zhou Xin. Wine lake, meat trees, concubine desserts, right? I'm sorry, no, farmer's daughter's desserts. Well, this time we have King You, Y-O-U, King You. He is the last Western Zhou king. Here's his story. It's a famous story, and this is a traditional history, right? Modern scholars have come up with different types of King Yo cries wolf. That's your heading for this. Notice these stories of the Shang King story and this story. They're fun. They're incredibly fun, but they're also useful because you can say that's what caused the transition from A to B, from Shang to Western Zhou, and now from Western Zhou to Eastern Zhou. King Yo had a concubine, and she was fine. Her name was Baosi, B-A-O-S-I. Concubine, that means part of my harem, my stable of gals. Not a prostitute, because she actually belongs to me. She's one of my many, many sort of secondary wives. Baosi, B-A-O-S-I. She was fine. She was the prettiest thing. And King Yo was just like, oh, gosh, she's so fine. But he had a problem. She destroyed his happiness because the woman never smiled. She just never smiled. This is the pre-Prozac, pre-Zantac, or whatever you call that stuff. I don't know. What's it called? Is it Zantac? Prozac, whatever. Right. The pre-antidepressive age. There were no pills to give her so that this woman would stop being depressed. She never smiled. He did everything he could to make this beauty, this gorgeous, drop-dead, fine, fine woman smile. I'm the king. I give you this. I give you that. I give you everything. And you never smile. I can't make you happy. Until one day. Okay. Now, until one day. The king, where is the Western Zhou capital? On what river? the way. That's why it's called Western Zhou, west to east, okay? Do I need to repeat that? West, east, okay? So here, around Xi'an, in comes a messenger saying, "O king, O king, O king, bad report. Nomads are coming. They're invading. There are mountain passes through here, and so the nomads can come." I've got a book if anybody's interested on this stuff. It's fascinating. The maps really zoom in on like just this area really close up, and you can actually see the lines of like invasion and defense and all sorts of stuff. And even at this time, they were already building walls. So how would they try to early warning system? Oh, a tsunami's coming. We knew like 10 hours earlier. How? Because we've got certain sensors that give us early warnings. Well, how do they have an early warning system against nomads? They had watchtowers on the perimeter, spaced a couple of kilometers apart, with guards. And so if the guards see nomads coming, and they seem to be in military formation, they seem to be on the attack, the guards would light a fire on that watchtower. And up goes the fire, 2 kilometers over. This guy sees, oh, there's smoke, that's the alarm, and he lights a fire, and so you've just got smoke signals going down, and they travel very fast. And they get to the capital. And then comes a messenger to the king saying, the nomads are coming. The king, what's he going to do? Here he is, he needs defense. What does he do? Come on, come on. What does he do? The king needs defense. Calls out his military, but come on, this is a feudal system. Who else is he going to call? The lords. And so, word goes out, messengers go out. Probably by fire, I don't know, never thought about this. But in any case, word goes to all the vassals, all those 100 to 200 vassal lords, and they have to quickly assemble their armies and ride like hell to get there in time to defend the capital and the king against an attack from the badass nomads of the north. And they arrive. Picture them getting this wake-up call at 2 a.m. Ah! Quick, get your army! And they all like, what? It's 2 in the morning. What? And they have to like jump on their armies and run over there. And they get there, and Balsa is standing next to King Yo when King Yo is like, thank you all lords for coming, we've got that. And then bow, report. New messenger. Yes, what's the report now? And all the lords, all 100 of the lords with their armies behind them are watching this. And the Lord goes, the messenger goes, it was a false alarm. And what you just did is what Balso did. Balso was like, because if you're one of the lords who's just gone through all that hubbub to run all the way from the coast to the freaking Wei River, what's your reaction going to be? WTF, right? And so Balso laughs. She laughs. And King Yo, this loser, Dynastic Cycle times a million, King Yo is like, oh, she smiles. She smiles. He thanks his lords for coming. He sends them home. Off they all troop with their, and they go home. And King Yo calls a messenger 2 weeks later, according to the traditional version. The bell's going to ring, but don't leave. I'm almost done. According to the traditional version, you can continue taking notes too, lazy boy. And, the bell rang. I'll just put my pencil down now. What a horrible, horrible, horrible thing that is. King Yo calls a messenger and says, here's some gold. Go and give it to the farthest watchtower guard and tell him to start a fire. Why did he do it? Because he wants to see her smile again. And so the whole damn thing happens a second time. Everybody runs forward. Messenger comes. Oh, it was a joke. And King Yo, this time he's not even looking at his lords. He's looking at her. So that she can go, he's like, oh, right. He does it a third time. The lords come. And he does it a fourth time, but this time, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. The fourth time, the nomads are coming. And none of the lords come because they're like, screw this dirtbag. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? And so nobody comes. And so the nomads come. The nomads kill King Yo. They burn down the Western Zhou capital, and the royal family flees to Luoyang. And in Luoyang, they set up Yo's son, number 11 or whatever, as the first king of the Eastern Zhou. And that begins the Eastern Zhou. Now, what's your homework? Look at Moodle. By the way, those of you who owe me makeup quizzes from week 2, I had to leave because my father died and all sort of things. So I will give you. Who am I talking to here? Fumiya, did you ever take them? The makeup quizzes? You can either have an F or you can have that done by Wednesday. All right? Yep. Hold on a sec. So here we are. Your homework is right there. Watch the Confucius movie. Where's the Confucius movie? It's right here. I have to do, listen to me, and I'm sorry, thank you. I'm going to do like a short audio thing to give you the background to this so that Confucius makes sense to you. This is a blockbuster movie, 2010. It's a real Chinese version of a Hollywood movie. It's quite good. So more to come. So I will do that by 4 o'clock because I've got a full day today. So I will have that audio sort of introduction done for you and on here so that you will listen to that and then you will watch the film. Read this. You will have a quiz of some sort just to show me that you did watch the film. And then we will continue watching this film in class next time and the time after that, all right, so that we get Confucius, all right? So, okay, all right, thank you for your patience. Sorry to keep you late. Yeah. Wash your cups, please, huh? Loyang. And that's why I gave you that city in your first geography quiz. Now, whose is this? Okay. All right. Thank you. Hey.